CA Productions invites you to join us for Coastal Connections with Courtney. This new and exciting television program is designed to showcase wonderful things taking place in South Mississippi. Join Courtney Anderson as she personally takes you on a journey all along the Mississippi Gulf Coast. You'll meet many local leaders, business owners, and interesting people who make a positive difference in these communities. Coastal Connections with Courtney will also showcase a wide variety of great places to eat, shop, and explore. There's so much to see in South Mississippi, so come along for the ride and enjoy Coastal Connections with Courtney.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Coastal Connections with Courtney this Sunday. Here we are in Gulfport, Mississippi. We're located at Chuck Kelly Salon. If you live in the South, everyone knows Chuck Kelly Salon. It's been here 36 years, and we get the opportunity to get to know the one and only Chuck Kelly. So here we are in Gulfport, Mississippi at Chuck Kelly Salon. And Chuck, thank you for this opportunity. I've known you for a very long time.
All your life.
My whole life. And you know, it goes back to you've done my grandparents. You have made such an impact on so many people's lives. In fact, just starting out with Coastal Connection with Courtney, I had several requests. And you know, our relationship and the family relationship, I hated to put that pressure on you, but I would like to get to know you on that level and how, you know, you have made it in a business this large and well respected for 36 years on the coast.
Well, thank you, Courtney. I'm flattered by that, and flattered by being asked to be a guest on your show. And I have to say, I'm so proud of you. I think you finally found your calling.
Finally at 40, but whatever.
So proud, and I've told your mother this more than once. I'm just so proud of you.
Thank you, Chuck.
Yeah, but I started in the business in 1983, and then opened my own salon in '86. So I've been in the business, so to speak, for 40 years roughly, but in business for myself for 36 and some change. So.
Were you born here on the Mississippi?
Actually born in Hattiesburg. My
Okay.
mother was from Gulfport. My father was from a little town called Seminary, Mississippi, north of Hattiesburg. They met at USM and married right out of college, and we lived in Hattiesburg for a while. Moved to the coast in '69, just in time for Hurricane Camille. Lived on 2nd Street.
On 2nd Street, and that's where I'm living now.
Yep.
Chuck, did you always?
I think that's where your parents lived when you were born, if I'm
They
not
did.
mistaken.
They
Right?
did for
Right.
about a year when Dad was just getting going. Did you always know you wanted to do what you do? Because you're a spitting image of the integrity of hair. You look out for all of us, and you're so honest and frank with every one of your clients.
Well, if my story's interesting, that's an interesting facet of it. I really had no intention of ever being a hairstylist. Graduated high school a year early, back when that was a thing, at the age of 16, and decided that 16 was far too young to go off to school. And at the time, my father was in commercial real estate. And Chris's Beauty College at the time was owned by a man named Charles Victor from Jackson, Mississippi. And he approached my father. He was an absentee owner, if you will. He lived in Jackson, was trying to operate the hairdressing school, Chris's Beauty College. And he just found he couldn't do it from afar, so he decided to sell the property and sell the business. And my dad was in commercial real estate, so he contacted my father about selling the business and selling the real estate. And my dad took a look at it and realized it could be a very viable business if someone could be present. And so he actually presented it to a good friend of his, an attorney and judge by the name of Donald Simmons, and Donald bought the business. And Dad sort of helped him operate it for a little while. And that extra year of high school extra year I had that I didn't go to college for graduating early, I had an extra year on my hands. And back then you did what your father told you to do. He said, well, with this extra year, you're going to go to beauty school. And so frankly, I was, just like, well, you do what your father tells you to do. And that's what I did. And I had an aptitude for it. I could tell, it was obvious once I started in the curriculum that I have an aptitude for this, but my goals were go to college. And so I finished the curriculum and then went off to Ole Miss the following fall, which would have been when I did it if I had stayed in school and graduated on, when I was supposed to. But so to sort of get into, and I know that your show is, I know you want to inspire people, so I think the best thing I can do to maybe hopefully reach one person is to tell the real story, the backstory. I was fortunate to grow up in Bayou View and where your mother and your father grew up, a wonderful neighborhood, wonderful friends, but the people who were closest to me know that my childhood was anything but solid, and it was difficult. Parents divorced when I was pretty young. I lived with my father, and without getting too personal, I associated with and ran with a crowd of people that, from the outside in, a lot of people said are affluent, so perhaps that was a perception. But anyway, behind closed doors, my home life was very difficult. And after being at Ole Miss for a short period of time, he had a massive heart attack, and I had to come home from school and help him. And soon after that, his finances and health really failed, so I decided to go into hairdressing. It became obvious to me that I needed to get out on my own and be independent as soon as I could. And after leaving Ole Miss, I enrolled in JD, continued the college track, worked at Godshaw's clothing store at Edgewater Mall. And I was still cutting some friends' hair just because, I had been through school.
And you were good at it.
Well, and I did it at Ole Miss in my dorm room, just for fun or a pizza or whatever.
You just had the eye for it?
Yeah, I guess. My dad was extremely creative and artistic, and I think I inherited, a good bit of that. But so anyway, long story short, I was going to JD, working at Godshaw's clothing store, and cutting a few friends' hair, and just in a home environment that I needed to get out on my own. But I was in a position where it really wasn't possible. And lo and behold, one day Jerry Ellis contacted me. He was the guy back then who had the biggest, nicest salon on the coast, and he was seeing my haircuts on the street and stopping people and asking him who cut their hair, and they said Chuck Kelly, and he said, well, I knew a Chuck Kelly who used to come in my salon when he was a little child. And anyway, he reached out to me and he told me, I'm seeing your haircuts on the street, man. You really ought to consider doing this as a career. And it was just a point in my life where I thought, you know what, he might be right, or this at least might be a temporary way for me to be independent and get on to the next chapter of my life. So went and took the state board exam, which I never did. And so that was a trick after 3.5 years or 4 years of not been in school and not studying for the test, but took the exam, passed it, and went to work for Jerry. So I was working for Jerry during the day and trying to stay true to getting that college degree, going to school at night. And that became difficult. So one semester I decided to take a break from school and just focus on work, and then another semester, and then I met my ex-wife. Before I knew it, I was married, and I thought, well, I guess I'm a hairdresser.
How old were you at this point? Because you've been doing it 36 years.
I was 23.
Just a baby.
And so when I decided to marry and start a family, that was really sort of the impetus for me opening my own place. I knew I had to get, I had to make more money. I had to get to a sort of a different place. And Jerry was, at that point, he was operating some businesses in New Orleans, and I just felt like for me to provide for my family, I needed to take that step and open my own place, and that was '86.
And Chuck, it's cool, like your dad planted that seed. You went off, you had to go through stuff to get to know Chuck, and you have that business mind. And that's what differentiates you from so many. Not only are you artistic, and you can look at something and just make art out of it, and you're honest. You're like, that's not gonna work, or that's not good for your hair, or that's not good for whatever. But you're also running a business that has maintained, enhancing the lives, the quality of lifestyle for so many right here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Well, thank you. It's nice to hear. I think most business owners anyone who's kept a business open
Yeah.
for 36 years knows that, you know, there's never a point of rest.
Well,
You know, it's never,
Yeah.
you can never let up, you can never lose your edge. You never let your guard down, so to speak. You never rest on your laurels. And I think it's, well, going back to, I think my father knew I was going to have something to fall back on. And that's why he made me, he sensed at that point where his health and finances were going. And so that worked out. And my point for bringing that up and harping on that is, anyone out there who looks at someone that they think is successful, but they say, I've got too many roadblocks in my own life, I could never get there, you know, that's the only reason I'm sort of airing this laundry about my childhood and my beginnings, is that if you want to inspire people, which I know that's your goal with your show. I just thought it's important that I at least, you know, put that piece out there that, you know, it's, and it sounds cliche, but cliches are cliche for a reason.
Exactly.
You know, if you're willing to work hard, you know, someone's going to notice and you're going to get a break. Like my ex-wife and her cousin helping me start, you know.
Well, Chuck, we're going to take a quick break, and I appreciate you being so vulnerable and honest. And now that you have opened up that anything is possible, I would like to hear more about the sassiness of Chuck Kelly, how it's been 36 years, how you're keeping us so up to date with all the rising on the coast as well as the enlarged cities. So we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back.
Visit the Gulf Coast's newest casino.
Come in today and experience the beautiful smoke-free Beachview Casino.
Pick your game. We have your favorite slots and table games and a sports book.
Enjoy incredible views while you dine at one of our many restaurants.
And grab a drink while you enjoy live entertainment every weekend in the heart of the action.
The Gulf Coast's newest, the smoke-free Beachview Casino Resort, Gulfport.
Thank you for calling J. Allen Toyota Service.
This is what happens when you set an appointment at J. Allen Toyota Service. We will order the part right then, so it'll be here when your appointment comes. Our greeter staff will greet you quickly and friendly and top off your fluids before your car even leaves the drive. Then your car will go to one of our 6 two-man express teams or one of our 10 certified technicians so they can get you back on the road safely and quickly. This is service the way it should be at J. Allen Toyota Service.
Can't find the new Ford vehicle you're looking for? Order it with us today at Butch Osterled Ford Lincoln. Get it the way you want it with a faster delivery. Visit us on Highway 49 in Gulfport.
Are a beacon of healing, resolute and consistent, determined. We are problem solvers, driven to overcoming obstacles, unshakable. We are prepared, capable, experienced, unbeatable. We are a network of people providing care throughout your lifetime. We are believers in the healing power of compassion. We are Memorial.
So Chuck, thank you for being honest and letting us all know. I mean, so many people aspire to be like you. Like I said, I've had so many requests on you because you're behind the scenes. You're quiet, you're successful, you make things happen. The only time I really hear you speak out and talk about your success is when people are constantly putting you in the magazines, putting you out in the limelight. And you know, I would like to know somebody as successful as you. Not only are you a creative, you're an artist, obviously. You have the mind that can run a business. How, at that time of your life, you go to Ole Miss, you think you're gonna, tell them what you thought with your business degrees and skipping. I mean, you said when you're 16, people just skip a grade. That was not when it was happening. That was a very gifted person when it was even offered to do that. So how did you persevere? How did you get it together and say, I'm going to make this life happen?
Well, when my ex-wife and her cousin provided the seed money, at that point, they were dependent on me. My future family was dependent on me. So failure was not an option, And so I went to work, and like I said, my work ethic was driven from, not always knowing everything was going to be okay. So I was determined that my family and my children never had any sort of an experience like I did. So I was going to get up and go to work every single day and do my best every single day. And my approach to customer service, fortunately, I've just always known that, the only person doing anyone a favor in a service business or any business for that matter, the only person doing anyone a favor is the guest, is the client, choosing to patronize your business,
sure,
give you their hard-earned money. And the minute that anyone, regardless of the business, loses sight of that, then you're in trouble. So it's sort of the beginning of the end for you. So I've always had just sort of that work ethic and that approach of when a guest comes into my space, I want them to feel like we come into their world, not them coming into our world. They're the focus, the primary focus the entire time. And as far as the business acumen, that just came with time. I knew. So
you had some failures with that, or hiccups?
Exactly, stumped my toe.
Not failures.
Yeah, but fortunately, my ex-wife was doing the books, and she was a banking and finance major.
Oh, wow.
And I had the, good sense to hire a CPA right out of the gate. So the critical, obligations of the business from all of those standpoints were met, and I was allowed to focus on building my team, taking care of our guests, providing a great experience. But the other parts, the challenging parts about managing people, inspiring people, that was just learned with time. And there are definitely some mistakes there, but mistakes are just growth opportunities,
Right, and experience.
As long as you learn from them and try to do your best not to repeat them, they're actually blessings.
Right, and Chuck, a lot of your clients, they've been with you like 20, 30 years, and it's been a generational thing.
I just had, strangely enough, 2 clients in last week, and we did the math and realized that I've been cutting their hair one for 39 years and one for 38 years, and that's such an honor. It's really an honor.
Oh, sure, and I'm sure, and your experience, like aside of all your talents and how smart you are and things like that, your professionality, you have the ability to relate to people, I'm sure. Because when you come here, this is a treat. You do it, healthcare, self-care, and Mom always said, look your best, feel your best. But it's very important for the quality of life. But you also get close with people like you, and you're able to be empathetic and give direction and help.
Well, in this business and so many, when it's this sort of close, personal, and touching, one has to have the ability to mirror what's in front of you, adapt to who the person is in your chair, and relate to them. Like I said, I'm coming into your world, not you coming into mine. And I've just always had the ability to do that, just to sort of adapt to whomever is in my chair. But you're right. I mean, I have relationships with clients that I've had. I don't cut children's hair anymore as a rule, but I do children's first haircuts,
Yes, you do.
And I'm now cutting children of
I know, like Annie's son.
Right.
I know it.
And what an honor that is to me. And that's, it's a very, very close relationship.
It
I
is.
take it very, very seriously. And, I've never never lose sight, like I said, of who's doing whom a favor. And I've just always tried to operate that way, and been fortunate to be successful.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we've touched on a lot, but I think it's so important how you have clients that stick with you the longest. I mean, a lot of people jump around, not at Chuck Kelly Salon, and how do you stay so up to date? Like, how do you keep us so cool looking like we're walking around in LA and New York? And the cool thing is you do. And so you can tell, you know.
I think that ship is sailing, but thank you.
No, it's not. But like, how do you just keep going? How do you keep up with the trends?
Well, yeah, we all speak in terms of pre-COVID these days, but, you know, for instance, when I started, I would save and scrounge. The only way that I could get exposure and training was to fly to New York. You know, back then I could fly nonstop from New Orleans on New York Air for, you know, what I could afford. I'd stay at a YMCA for $10 a night. The only way I could get advanced training was to go to workshops and salons in New York, and I did that for years and years and years. Of course, now with the advent of the internet, you've got celebrity hairdressers who have subscription services, and they actually do video tutorials, and so it's so much easier now through YouTube and all that to get exposure. Yeah, to get exposure. And once you reach a certain level of proficiency with your craft, you can simply watch someone do something and you can do it. You know? But for instance, right now I've got 2 stylists in Atlanta at a Bumble and Bumble styling class. So, you know, travel is always the best way to get inspired. But luckily now for the young people entering this business on a budget, a wealth of information, inspiration, and technical instruction is available for just dollars. You know, it's a totally different world in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and you definitely touched on it, but I know you have so much training. Your staff's been with you for years. Everybody, and you have the best reputation. You really do. And you know, how do you do that? Maintain your staff, and on top of all the other hats you wear, and mainly you're involved in so many things on the coast. Really, to say it flat brain, you could live anywhere. You could live in New York. You look like you live in New York. Your studio is one of a kind on the coast. It has a different vibe than anywhere else. Why did you pick this for your location, to make this your home?
Well, I knew early on that due to traveling to New York and working side by side with some really well-known hairdressers in these workshops, I knew what I had. Technically, I knew I had what it took. I could move to New York, I could move to Atlanta, I could move to Dallas, LA. I had friends in all those places, but what always kept me here, you know, besides the fact that I started a family at a pretty young age, but it was the people and the relationships with the friends and the family, you know, the families that were such an important part of the stability of my childhood. I put so much value in the friendships, and I have friends that I've had since kindergarten. And we're still very close and still spend,
on the coast?
Absolutely. Still spend time together. And that, to me, that was just a huge measure of wealth to me that I just didn't, and I spent enough time out of town in big cities, sometimes a week at a time.
You got your little flair.
And enough to sort of get that travel, the wanderlust out of my system, but to also realize that they're just people too. And their lives were mundane and ordinary, even though it might look really sexy and glamorous to go to New York. Spend enough time there, you realize that it's really not that different.
Right, you want to come home. I know, I did the geographic thing, and I agree. I just wanted to come home. But mainly when I say the large cities, it's, you know, all your credentials, all your awards, all of the things you carry here, the techniques mainly, you know, it's offered in those big cities. They're always on top of it. But as the coast is growing, you keep us up to date. Are you seeing more people come to the coast and talk highly about it? What do you see with that?
Well, we're seeing a large influx of people from other states, and that's a sort of a whole separate issue as to why that's happening. But we're definitely having an influx from higher tax states, and et cetera, and some from California. And they're finding their way in all the salons on the coast. But I do feel like the ones who find their way in here appreciate us, and you know, they're well taken care of, I hope.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks to you and your team. Chuck, what hobbies do you do outside of work and run this? I know you're pretty happy now, and I know you like boating. You're involved in a lot of different organizations, clubs. Tell me a little bit about that, what you do, what we can do to
Gosh,
find
my
the Chuck
passions
Kelly.
were, you know, at one time it was golf, but that's I can't seem to find the time to do that anymore.
Yeah.
But obviously, boating is a huge part of my life. Spending time with Ashley, which you know.
I know.
I now have 2 grandsons that are, growing up way too fast, and they live in Jackson, which is just too far, just a little bit too far away to see them as much as I want to. Good food, good wine. Anyone who knows me well knows that I like my wine.
Absolutely.
And, I used to do some paddle boarding and like I said,
I can see that.
used to do some cycling, but I've been a little lazy to be frank, so I can't put that out there now without someone calling me on it. But, work is a good 50 hours a week. So
I know. And I'll see you on your days off. Sometimes I'll see your black truck. I'm like, that inspires me. I need to get on that computer. But Chuck, with all these different things that you do, what makes you just keep getting up? Because at your life right now, it looks very glamorous. It's very inviting. You're very happy now, but it wasn't always easy, was it?
And it's still not, and I'm still I know psychologically, or subconsciously, I should say, I'm still driven by that. The rug could get pulled out from under you at any minute.
Oh, yeah.
It's just there. I know it is. And I work on not letting that overwhelm me. But I could, I guess, sort of rest on my laurels to a degree, but that's just not in me. And I'm just driven every day to get up and work as hard as I can and do as best. I try to treat my staff as well as I possibly can and give them as much as I possibly can. And you try to make a difference in someone's life. You never know what someone who comes and sits in your chair might be going through, and just paying attention and being kind can really make a difference.
Kindness, absolutely. And Chuck, this has been a keepsake for me that I've just felt like this has been a very intimate, close talk, and I appreciate you being vulnerable, telling the real story, because from afar, you would never know that you had any hiccups. We would have thought it was just given to you, and it wasn't always like that. You worked your booty off to be right here, 36 years. That right there says enough about you.
Yeah.
So thank you for this opportunity, and I definitely want to come back because there's so much we didn't touch on. But I appreciate this, and this means a lot to Coastal Connections.
Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you, Chuck, and thank you everyone for tuning in for another Sunday of Coastal Connections with Courtney.
Thank you for calling J. Allen Toyota Service.
This is what happens when you set an appointment at J. Allen Toyota Service. We will order the part right then, so it'll be here when your appointment comes. Our greeter staff will greet you quickly and friendly and top off your fluids before your car even leaves the drive. Then your car will go to one of our 6 two-man express teams or one of our 10 certified technicians so they can get you back on the road safely and quickly. This is service the way it should be at J. Allen Toyota Service.
Can't find the new Ford vehicle you're looking for? Order it with us today at Butch Ostelet Ford Lincoln. Get it the way you want it with a faster delivery. Visit us on Highway 49 in Gulfport.